Hey guys, welcome back to Indirect Knowledge. Today I've got a tarot card reading that I'm going to do for, just going to use the first initial M, just for privacy and everything. And I like this question that M poses, and it's just basically about the new year. Like, what is 2023 going to look like for her? So I'm going to do the tarot card reading here in just a minute. But before I do, I just want to apologize because I just saw a notice that I just got this received, and this was back on December 30th, and it's taken me a little while to respond. And honestly, it's just because it kind of fell through the cracks. So that's the reason why. And so please forgive me for being a little bit delayed on getting this tarot card reading to you. But, anyways, let's continue and see what 2023 has in store. Just shuffling the cards here to get them nice and mixed up, get the old energy off the cards. We'll do another shuffle here in just a minute to just kind of really uh, center on the focus on the question and to just let the cards do the speaking, so to speak. Okay, so the first card, and I've got 12 cards dealt here. And so I thought what we would do is a nice 12 card reading, one card for every month. Then from there, we can kind of get a big picture perspective on what the year is going to look like. So for January, we have the Knight of Wands. So the Knight of Wands is really one about action and more action. So January, it looks like, is a busy month. There's a lot of energy that's being exuded, a lot of things coming at you, a lot of things you're pursuing, different things on that end. And that's what January really looks like: busy, busy, busy. February, it's the Ace of Cups. Potential for a new relationship, maybe. Cups are about relationships usually. Um, Cups also symbolize water often. We see a lot of the water here. We see the water coming out of the cup. That represents the unconscious. A lot of times when people fall in love or they find a new relationship, it's often done kind of what would seem like by providence, or kind of it just sort of happens mysteriously, or the circumstances that kind of bring two people together just sort of happen sometimes. Sometimes it's very natural. Other times it's more intentional. People maybe try to uh, work on trying to find the right partner and this, that, and the other. But this is maybe new, and it's more kind of along the lines of more of an unconscious action. So it's like maybe our mind is kind of moving more along that way in terms of like a relationship of some sort, something coming about. Ace of Cups for February can also be a wish card in a lot of ways. So if you're something that you've got your mind set on, you've been trying to pursue that for quite a while, the Ace of Cups is something that can give you some resolve to that, or at least push that forward in a better direction for you. So March. March. So March, we have the Six of Swords. Now, swords are often conflicting, and the reason being is because we have our mind here. On one side of our mind, we have our senses. These are things to do with like the material nature of things. It's all the things in this universe that we find attachment to, that we feel ourselves attached to. And this happens on a whim. It's very whimsical kind of thinking. On the other side of the mind, it's our intelligence. It's our ability to be able to plan things out, be a little bit more methodical about things, not so whimsical. And then that leads us into more like the soul nature of things. That's the higher, the deeper purpose for why we're here on this planet, that type of thing. So there's always kind of a conflict when it comes to like the mind activities, like in the day-to-day life. We may find ourselves drawn to all these superfluous types of endeavors or things like that. And then there's the other part of us that really feels more like drawn to like a spiritual pursuit, or more the divine or the divinity, or higher thinking. It's kind of this idea of, why am I here? What is my purpose? There's more to life than just what you see is what you get. And that's what this card is kind of bringing us here. We have the turbulence of the mind, of the mind's desires in terms of its material pursuits and that type of thing. This is things to do with like our five senses, things we've been at. And then on the other hand, we're going toward the calmer waters, the unconscious, the calmer parts of the recesses of our mind and conscious, where things are possible. And that this is a really good card, actually. March is a good card for you in that, because it's kind of like we're moving away from some of the negativities in our life, and we're finding like a calmer, stiller place to kind of find ourselves. I always think of this card sometimes as like a rest and renewal, or a rest and retreat kind of proposition. It's one where we've been going like, well, we have our January energy here, this Knight of Wands, really fast paced, no real time to slow down or stop and think or to pause and wait. And then, so we have all that stuff going on, and then we have, maybe a potential for a relationship or something new in this regard that comes about. And that even complicates all of this high energy even more, because it's adding another layer on top of things. And then we get to this March, and it's like all this here stuff here is kind of like taking a break from it, just kind of pursuing more of the. So like I always think of it as more like a rest and renewal, or rest and retreat. It's like sometimes people will go on like a yoga retreat. They've got many different, ones that you can check out. I know a really popular rest and renewal or rest and retreat program is offered by like Kripalu. Kripalu is the largest yoga institute in the United States anyway. It's in the Berkshire Mountains. And no, I'm not an affiliate or anything like that. I'm not trying to tell you to go off and pursue that or anything. But sometimes people will go on like a Kripalu retreat or some type of yoga retreat, a meditation retreat, something like that, just so that they can step outside of their everyday environment, find themselves more in tune with themselves, pursue some more quieter activities, and that looks like kind of what March is right there. So like if I'm kind of painting these pictures, I'm putting these layers together for you. The reason I'm doing that is to kind of like let you envision in your own mind kind of maybe what that looks like. And then you can kind of get the feel for what the year is coming, what's coming about through the year for you. So the next card that we have is our April energy, and this is a death card. Okay, so April, we have this death card. This is a 13, and guys, yeah, today is what? Friday the 13th, isn't it? It's 1/13/2023. That's what the computer clock says. So it's the 13th of Jan, basically. But anyways, we have the death card here. And sometimes this can mean like a literal death, maybe the passing away of someone, transitioning into the hereafter, whatever you want to call it. Or it could be something like in terms of like a figurative death. It could be like just some aspect of our life is kind of leaving us and, going by the wayside. So it's kind of, it's, it could be one or the other. It could be a combination of the two. Oftentimes when we see the death card, it's more likely, the more likely thing when we see the death card is not so much the actual death of a human being or a pet or something like that. More often than not, it's more about just, there's a part of us. It could be maybe we grew up with a certain philosophy or a certain understanding about life, or we had certain traditions or certain things that we kind of clung to, it kind of just clung to and would never let go of. And so the death card can sometimes be sort of like that final release of that type of thing happening. So maybe think of April as like a letting go period, and it's just sort of like a, as in life, we're coming to this world in terms of body and quote unquote in existence, and we have a certain period of preservation. That's the time that we're on this planet, and then one day we're no longer here. But it's like a cycle, and so death is just kind of like the end of one cycle, so that something else can happen, something new can come about as a result. So it's getting rid of the old, making room for the new. So kind of think of April as sort of that. It makes a little bit of sense in the context of its placement with April, because April, we get into like, it's, we're breaking the year down into, 3 different sections: birth and existence, and then death. Well, the death would come at the end of the April month. That would be the 4th month in the calendar year. Our 5th month is interesting. Our 5th month is the 9 of Pentacles, or 9 of Coins, sometimes people call it. In this card, we see the maiden, and she's got a bird, and she's kind of in this card. This has got grapes. It's like a vineyard type of thing. There's also the coins. It's the representation of money and solvency and things going pretty well in that regard. It's also representative of just being in a very grounded state, but it's usually a pretty positive state because we feel safe, we feel secure. So that leads us to, like, when we have the death card in April, sometimes there's a sadness of letting go of things. It's kind of like there's a sense of loss often associated with death. But when you get to May, it looks like a pretty good outlook. It looks like, pretty grounded, doing pretty well, good mindset. We could afford to take a week off from work or whatever it is that we do and still be pretty good. So there's not a lot of concern or a lot of fear or a lot of worry in our life. In fact, it's pretty positive. So it shows kind of like, we've been working towards something, and that something is materializing. It's coming about, and it's bringing us a sense of peace, a sense of calm, it's a sense of security. That's May. The next card that we have is our King of Cups. We talked about cups being relationships. Kings, they're really the controllers. They're the ones that have the final say over things. They're the head of the aristocracy. And they're the head of the kingdom. They can tell us what to do, and we pretty much have no choice but to obey those orders. Good, bad, indifferent. So hopefully the king is usually a pretty good person that we're following. And if they're in that position, let us just hope that that's the case. So the King of Cups, this is emblematic for June. The king holds the chalice or the cup, and you know, it's kind of like having control of a relationship. It's kind of like pretty much just really being able to say, hey, I care about who I am, I care about others, but at the end of the day, this is my kingdom, it's my way or the highway. People just have to kind of, you know, get in where they fit in, and there doesn't have to be a whole lot of sacrifice in that regard. So the king is pretty much, able to make dictates, be in a pretty good place. So June is not bad. It's a place of power. It's a place of responsibility. Um, and it's like we're pushing this May energy of solvency and everything going pretty good. Transitions into the king of everything of having power, kind of being on top of the world, being in control of things, being tasked with managing a kingdom. There can be a lot of responsibility involved with that. But at the end of the day, it's having, being able to map things out and keep things going. And that's a pretty positive place. July, though, we have the Three of Wands. So threes kind of tell us the story of like, we've started along a path. And by the time we get to the three, it's sort of like there's still a lot of territory in front of us, but we've already begun. Now we kind of have kind of an immersive experience in life, an immersive experience in this new path that we've decided we wanted to take. And the Three of Wands is about really just taking hold of that energy and continuing on. Like, you see this person, they're up on top, and now there's that valley kind of down below and more mountains in the backdrop. And it's like, okay, we're just, kind of scouring the skyline to see, we can see kind of what's in front of us. And now we get a pretty good idea of what's to come. And that's the story of the Three of Wands. But it's also, because of those wands, it's really about that energy. It's really about that progressive action. And that's what that Three of Wands is all about. It's almost like we get started on a path and we don't really know what to expect. It's new, right? It could be the same in like a relationship, for example. If we're engaged in a relationship and it's brand new, we don't really know the person. The person doesn't really know us. We don't know their likes or dislikes. We don't know where that journey is going to take us. It's exciting in the sense that maybe we don't know, but it's also scary in the sense that it could be down a path that we don't really want to go. By the time you get to the three energy, though, it's pretty much, you get a pretty good sense of what the direction is. And then at that point, you can kind of then start to run in that direction. A lot of your, a lot of the things that may have held you back, or maybe you kind of kept back, like a part of yourself that you didn't really reveal because you didn't want to be judged, or you didn't want to have people, you didn't want to show your hand right away, basically. You wanted to kind of, protect yourself in a sense. So you kind of held back a little bit. But by the time you get to the three, it's time to start letting that veil down and letting people really know who you are. That's what our July energy looks like. For August, we have another king. King of Wands, king of action. This king doesn't mince his words or anything. He just pretty much what he wants, he gets, and he goes after it. So that's what August looks like. August is usually, it's a summer month, here in the United States. And it's one of those months where you get a lot of that sun energy coming in. So it's usually pretty positive. So the King of Wands in this particular phase of the year looks pretty promising. It's about taking action, putting yourself in a good situation, setting yourself up for success. It could be for whatever you're kind of going after, whether it's relationships or whether it's money and finances, whether it's, protecting your health in some capacity, something along those lines. any of these major kind of areas of our life that people tend to be focused on. This is really like kind of like setting yourself up for success, kind of making this plans, putting things in order for yourself, that type of thing. September, we start to get more into like kind of our Virgo energy in that. And we have the Fool. Foolhardy. This is kind of like whimsical, just kind of taking it easy. We have the Sun energy there, so we feel pretty good. It's just kind of like that. I think of that as when I see the Fool, a lot of people get a little nervous when they see the Fool. They're like, oh, no, not the Fool. But no, the Fool is actually a pretty good card. It's starting a new journey. Like in the major arcana, when we get this card, it's a 0 card. It's the very first card in the major arcana, which is kind of like our life, kind of heavy stuff, that goes on with our life. But to get started on this path, this journey, sometimes in tarot we call it like the journey of the Fool. It's the person that is going to learn. It's the person that's going to grow. And so it takes us into a completely different mind space, and it's pretty good. Give you guys kind of an example of what I mean. So how do I put this? So I'm horrible at taking tests, like standardized tests. Never been good. When it comes time to take tests, my mind freezes up. I can know every answer. I can have read all the material. I can have memorized everything. But when it comes time to actually putting the pen to paper and having to do this, for some reason, I get blocked. Just never been really good. I get lucky, but if it's a true measurement of my knowledge, there is a sense of guilt after taking the test, even if I do well on it, because in the process of taking the test, my mind was frozen in the sense that I wasn't using my mind to actually do the test. It was more just kind of like intuition in terms of A, B, C, D, just, okay, maybe it's this answer, just put this, and then get done with it. And then maybe I do okay on the test itself, or maybe I don't. But there's that sense of, just, I don't know, it's like I thought once upon a time, I've had people give me all kinds of suggestions about it. Someone told me once that, it's just a mental block, it's something that you've done, you've done in this, that, and the other. And I've worked on it. I've done meditation on it. I've taken other people's suggestions about it. But I just never tend to do really good. After I take a test, I don't usually feel very good. It's not my happiest moment of my day. In fact, there's a little bit of depression that happens after taking a test with me. It doesn't matter what kind of test. I mean, it could be a test that's not going to, produce any kind of material result. It could just be, any kind of test for that matter. But I don't do too well. I kind of get a little bit depressed. And my mind has a tendency to stick on the result, on the test itself. Like I have a hard time like letting it go. And before I take the test, while I'm in the process of studying and learning things and all, I'm kind of here. I'm the Fool, but it's kind of pleasurable. There's this sense of pleasure that comes with like learning something new, or embarking on some kind of a new journey, or taking on some other service. As a monk, we do a lot of different service projects. Well, maybe something comes along and, is kind of, it's like nice. It's kind of new. For example, I'll give you guys a little story here to kind of illustrate what I mean. So yesterday, we had a devotee, another monk that was visiting from Gitanagari. We have this farm. It's a huge farm out in Pennsylvania. And that's where he lives. He lives out on the farm. They've got like 90 something cows that live there that they take care of. And they get milk. These are milk cows. They get milk from that, and a good sized community of people that live on the farm. It's a very spiritual community, simple living, high thinking. You don't really have to leave the farm because everything is just kind of on the farm. I mean, it's kind of like an enclosed kind of community there. Well, the devotee was visiting us, and yesterday was his last day with us. His name was Jiva, by the way. So Jiva was with us, and he came up to me and he asked me, he's like, is there any service I can do before I leave? I have to leave at 7:15, catch my bus, and I'm going to go back to Pennsylvania, back to Gitanagari. And he would reach there at 12 something today, Friday, in the afternoon. So it's a bus is stop all the time. It's a Greyhound. It stops. They have frequent stops. And, we were talking a little bit, and he was explaining that there's a little bit of stress that goes with these stops, because you don't really know when the bus is going to take off again. If you get off the bus to maybe go use the loo or the toilet or something, or you go to get something, there's no guarantee that when you come back, the bus is still going to be there. So there's that part of you that's a little bit leery about getting off the bus. You'd like to go and stretch your legs, use the bathroom, whatever. But at the same time, you don't want to miss that ride, because it would be, especially like if you're a little, strapped for cash, and as monks, we live pretty basic. So, Lakshmi or money, whatever you want to call it, is not always, so plentiful. Let's just put it like that. So we were talking different things. But anyways, he was very kind. He asked me, he said, is there any service that I can do for you before I leave? Anything I can help you out with? And so last night we were preparing a huge community meal for people in the community and devotees and everything in our little sphere, a neck of the woods. And I was making chapatis. And chapatis, for those of you that don't know, is just kind of like an Indian flatbread that's rolled out. It's pretty basic bread. And then it's fried on a tawa, or like a griddle plate, cast iron griddle plate, and then it's flipped, and then it's put on a flame, and it'll balloon up a little bit. And so it's kind of fun, So I thought this would be something that he might enjoy. So he told me, I've never made these chapatis. I've never done chapatis. He's like, so I'm a little bit nervous for doing this. Well, the dough was already prepared and had sat for a while, and it was nice and ready to go. So I showed him how to do the chapatis and, cook them properly and everything like that. And then I kind of helped him get started with it, and he was doing it. And he really enjoyed that experience, because it was something like brand new. Well, he was telling me, he confided in me. We got on a pretty friendly note. He confided in me, and he said, well, Chandra, Prabhu, he's like, I always wanted to learn how to make samosas, but, I never have the time. I never get time because we don't make them so frequently. I just have never really gotten the time to really learn how to make them. So what we did, which was kind of neat, was we took one of the chapatis. I rolled it kind of oblong, kind of oval shaped, cut it, and then I showed him how to make samosas with this chapati dough, which is really, for those of you that really know like about cooking, chapati dough is usually a lot more subtle. It's more like a softer dough than, say, like the maida flour, and you use a lot less water with the samosas than you do with like the chapati. So the dough is less pliable, so it's a harder kind of dough. And so you roll it out thin, and it keeps its shape pretty nicely, and you can fill it and all of this. But I've made quite a bit of samosa, quite a bit of chapati in my lifetime. So I felt pretty confident I could show him how to make these samosas using this chapati dough. So I wanted to teach him how to do it. So that's what I did. And I explained all of this to him as I was going, saying, and we put like the karam seeds, the ajwain seeds in this dough and everything to make it nice, and folded it over and blah, blah, blah. Then, because we didn't have the fryer going or anything, because we were just making chapatis on an open fire on a gas range, I said, okay, so this is going to be like healthy chapatis, or healthier chapatis. no frying today. So just imagine yourself actually deep frying these faster and stuff, and like a medium heat where it's not going to like bubble up too much and this that. I explained the whole process to him, but so we put this on the flame, and I made like the samosa for him, and we were going to offer that and everything to God, and what have you. And then I told the devotee, I said, now I have to go do this other, you know, as a pujari, the one that does like the offering and everything like that in our sphere. That was my other service that night, last night as well. So to do that, there's kind of a ritual that we go through. It's taking a shower and bathing and cleaning and applying tilak and all of these kind of things. So I had that to do. It was getting a little bit later. So he wanted to go do kirtan, which is like a music and everything and singing. I said, yeah, go do that if you want. I said, but before you leave, if you want, you can come and make a plate, the offering plate, putting the different food and bhoga and everything on it. And then, I'll go offer it. And that'll be like your last service before you leave out. And I think that would be a very sweet service. It's a very nice service that you can do. And so Jiva was like, oh, so ecstatic, so happy about it. Very humble guy, and so very nice. So he went down, did the kirtan. I got prepared for doing the offering and everything, and the pujari service and everything. And then he had come up, made the plate nicely, and that samosa that we prepared, he had that on the plate nicely on top of the chapatis and everything that had been finished up and everything. So it was really, really nice. And it was a nice experience, kind of a nice, sweet experience, and just something that's memorable. Well, that's kind of this learning something new. So it's kind of that experience of doing it. Now, where this changes a little bit is when you kind of get like to test mode. Now, let's just assume that, for example, I was going to test him on his capabilities, how to make chapatis, how to make samosas, this, that, and the other. And so I put him in the fire and I said, okay, you got to do this to prove that you can do this. Otherwise, we'll take this service away from you. Which we wouldn't do. We would, that's not us. But if that were the case, the pressure that's exerted from just being put in the fire, being shown how to do something is one thing. Practicing it a little bit on your own with the guidance of someone else, a mentor, is also quite nice. But then when you're on your own doing it and you have people counting on you to produce something, and it's like all this weight falls on your shoulders, the stress comes on, right? And so that's where that whole testing thing comes from for me. It's kind of like, okay, this is do or die. And I don't know, that pressure just, I don't know. The full energy, though, here in September is good energy because it kind of is like we get immersed into things, and it's that good energy. It's a good energy like what mine and Jiva's interaction yesterday, cooking some nice prasadam for this community of people with big, huge hearts, and everyone is really nice. That was kind of like that sweetness. So the full energy is actually a quite nice experience. So don't take it as being like, oh no. It just means maybe you don't have as much experience or you haven't done something enough to really get, full on grasp of it. But it's not the time, like September is not the time of like really testing, so to speak. It's more just having this nice kind of immersion into new things coming about, moving in a kind of a non-threatening, non-stressful kind of manner, and just being able to smile and enjoy. It's almost like the person that starts a new job and, they're really excited about the job and learning new skills and this, that, and the other. And now they're paired up with someone that has been there 35 years, 40 years. That person that's done the same job over and over and over again, they've mastered it. It's no longer exciting to them. They're looking at the clock, waiting for when they're going to get off work. Whereas this person that just started the job is loving it so much. They're like, why don't we just keep doing it? I wish we could do this forever. And then the person that's done it forever is like, oh, no, you don't. If only you knew. So you get those kind of things. You get the person at the front end, and then you get the person at the back end. So it's completely different, the experience. And the experience makes the difference between our reactions or our behavior or our excitement or enthusiasm about things. So it's really nice. And if you can get someone that is a mentor or someone that helps you that is just as equally enthusiastic or still just in love or just as much happy about doing things as what you are, then you are really in a good situation. So the next card that we have is our October. So we get into kind of this Libra energy, right? Libra is about the balance, kind of weighing things out, being able to articulate and to see things in terms of uh, what's right and what's wrong, or what's good and what's bad, what's fair and what's dishonest, these type of things. And for that card, for October's energy, we have the Queen of Wands. It's a really good card to have in October because the Queen is very influential. And the Queen of Wands is one that takes action as well. So in this year, we see a lot of action happening. We see some relationship cards come up. We see just really, let me look here for just a minute. I think we just have one card of the that's our March energy, which we talked about a minute ago. That's this one here. It's the only sword we really have. So as far as conflict goes, it doesn't look like there's really a whole lot of it. And it looks like in March, we're just kind of moving away from that kind of conflicting things. But other than that, it looks pretty much like there's a lot of creativity energy. Like that's what we get with the wands, kind of this kind of creative type of energy and stuff. But the Queen is also really influencing. And then we have the sun energy in this as well. We can see because of the sunflower there. And the sunflowers, for those of you that have ever planted flowers or sunflowers, they face the sun. So we can see that the sun is actually coming down in this direction. We see that the Queen is focused toward the sun, which is a good sign. And then we also see that the black cat here, her pet, is also that way as well. So yeah, it's a really good card to have for October. And this is just telling us, like, for October, it's just more about like just opening ourselves up to more things. There's that being able to put things kind of, in a nice way in our favor. So, but doing it in the right way, not trying to take advantage of people or to do things kind of like, distastefully or, that just deceptively and all that kind of stuff. It's not none of that kind of energy. Queen of Wands is really more about like learning how to get what you want, but in a nice way, and I like that kind of energy with the Queen of Wands. She's really, she's kind of like this really good person about getting us to kind of take actions that are good for us, kind of like pointing us in the right direction, giving us some kind of a, kind of a nudge. She kind of nudges us in the right direction and all, but in a nice way, kind of in a gentle way. Whereas the King energy, which we have those the two kings here. In fact, we had the King of Wands and we had the King of Cups. It's more of the kind of like that. You think of kings as sort of that paternalistic kind of. No, we're going to do it this way, and we don't always think in terms of like the emotional side of things so much with the kings as much as we do with the queens. It's more of that feminine kind of that, but very nice energy as far as just kind of influencing us. Just from my own experiences, I will share this with you guys. My mother was really, really good at kind of nudging me, like pushing me into certain directions or encouraging me in a nice way to do things. My father was really good at telling me, you're going to do this, And if my mother couldn't influence me, she would go to my father, and then my father would say, do this. Okay, I'm on it. So, maybe you get faster results with that king energy in terms of like, but it's not near as sweet. The mother telling the son or the daughter for that matter, maybe you would like to do this, and I could see you doing this. It might be nice for you. It's that nice kind of encouraging kind of thing. And that's this Queen of Wands right here. And you're like, oh, you really think so? And she's like, yeah. And we trust the mother you know so much, and mother has such a great energy. She's really always got our best interests, whereas the father is kind of detached from the interest. The mother really wants to see us do well and exceed and better ourselves and these kind of things. And so that's that kind of energy. Get that in October, so it's really positive. So let's move to November. We have the Magician. All right, so the Magician, we had the Fool back here in September. Got kind of nudged a little bit in October. In October, and now in November, we go from this card to this card. So this was a 0 card in the Major Arcana. This is the 1 card. The 1 card, the Magician card, is telling us basically that whatever we need is at our disposal. We have all the tools, all the resources, whatever we need is there for us. And it's always it's a really great kind of protective kind of energy. We have the cups, wands, pentacles, swords. It's there. So it's like it's just saying that you don't really have to go outside yourself for answers. You don't really have to go outside yourself for resources. Everything you need is pretty much self-contained. You really have the ability and the know-how and the wisdom and the knowledge and the material resources even to be able to, whatever you're planning, whatever direction you're kind of moving into, you're pretty much set up for success kind of on the front end, which is kind of a pretty empowering place to be. And it's ironic that it's coming in November that we get this card, because it's actually moving to the end of the month. So we see that this year is actually going to pivot into 2024. So this is going to be almost maybe like just a beginning of some journey that you're on here in 2023. And we're going to see like 2024, 2025, 2026, maybe even, where that journey, this Fool's journey of starting and having all the resources and stuff, is going to continue on. And you'll see that for probably, several months after November, December. So let's move on to December for just a moment. We have the Ace of Pentacles. Okay, so now we're getting kind of a clue about where this journey is taking us. Well, this is not the only ace we had. If you remember, back in February, we had the Ace of Cups. This was like new relationship kind of things, kind of subconscious kind of actions that we take in this regard. A little bit different with this. It's more conscious actions that we're taking here now. This is about job, security, finances, taking on some kind of a new role or new situation or kind of new thing. And this is in December. This happens in December. So it's like at the end of the year, we get to this whole year and we get to the end of it. And by the time we get to the end, this pentacle is, presenting itself and everything to us. And it's kind of showing us a way into 2024. So it's like it kind of ends on a really positive note. Because it's a new note. It's taking us in this direction. And so the Fool and the Magician and the Ace of Pentacles are all kind of there. We have the encouragement of this Queen energy that's kind of pushing us. So really that last third, that's our September, October, November, and December, is all kind of a lead up into the next year of 2024. That's going to give us a lot of really good direction. It's kind of like preparing us for this journey. And 2024 is going to be a little bit. So let me just talk about this in terms of our numerology for just a moment, because I think that's a little bit telling also. It gives us another layer of understanding about what the year is going to look like for M moving forward. So just in general, like we are in a 7-year. Now this 7-year gives us this, it's about introversion, really going inside ourselves. I mentioned that rest and renewal or that yoga retreat kind of energy coming through. That's this year, we get a lot of that. And, as people go more into like supplication and prayer and meditation and yoga and just, relaxing our psychology or relaxing our psyche, it's a time of, preparation. It's a time of like letting things go and kind of taking a deep breath, and then allowing new things to kind of come in. And that's what this is really. This makes perfect sense for M because that's really what's going on. By the time we get toward the end of the year, literally, like we get in this October, November vibe, really, this November, usually that's when the numerology starts to pivot into the next year. We see a recycle of things. And so that's really what's going on. So all of this that leads up is that kind of that, there's a lot of action here. A lot of things will be shaking, moving and shaking, as they say, like January especially. But then after that January, we have a little bit of February, some more compounded layers of things being added on top of the busyness. But then by the time we get to March, it's kind of like all that, anything chaotic or really not serving our purpose or anything that we're just really wanting to start letting go of. That's really the time that we're going to start doing it. That's that R&R time. We're just going to start to say, okay, I need a break. I need a break from everything going on. I need to just get some pen and paper out, do some introspection, and that's really, the lead up into. So yeah, pretty good year on everything. So yeah, that's pretty much it. And just let me know, like when we get close to that 2024, toward the end of this year, and we can do another reading for you to kind of see where this leads back into. You might have to remind me of this. My mind, when I do tarot readings and that, oftentimes I'm almost like like a hypnosis almost, if you will, so like my unconscious mind is more doing the work than my conscious mind, so to speak. So it's just kind of whatever I'm getting, it just kind of comes through naturally. So anyways, but I hope this helps. I hope it gives a little bit of perspective on things for you. And I just think it's going to be a really great year for you. And even that April energy where we see the Death card come out, it's probably more than likely just going to be something. It could be that relationship that you get. I'm kind of picking this up. Maybe it's that relationship energy that you're picking up in February. Maybe it's a dying off of that by the time you get to April. Maybe it's just not going to be real long lasting. And so it's just transforming into something else, a different direction for yourself. And it looks like by the time you get to that May, things really start to really just, materialistically, in terms of your preservation and your basic needs, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, food, water, shelter, clothes, all those kind of things. That's all taken care of. By the time we get to this, your safety and security and stuff is pretty much good in May. So whatever is happening in the first part of the year, I wouldn't really stress too much about it. And then just kind of see, by the time you get to this September, October, November, and December, you'll start to see as some new things start to come in. And as they start to come in and stuff like that, you'll really start to feel, especially you get to November, you get that Magician card, you're going to start to really feel a sense of like, yeah, I'm doing, this is what I've been wanting to do. This is what I've been looking forward to. This is what I've been kind of biding my time, really trying to move in this direction. I feel like finally I'm there, and I have the ability to take action and to move in this new direction. And it's going to really solve a lot of my long-term needs down the line. And you'll be able to do it with a good energy. It's not like that test energy that I get having to take these tests. It's going to be more the, I'm doing this because I want to do it. It's in my heart to do it. And that's always a good place to be at. Tests, maybe it's not always in my heart. It's kind of like, so there's that part of me that a little resentful maybe about that, maybe something I need to work on. But yeah, I guess. But anyways, this tarot card reading is not about me though. It's about you, Em. So I hope that you maybe pick up some things yourself in this. It's always my hope that when I deliver something like this and I present it to you, I do it in a way that it starts to kind of you get your own subconscious mind kind of turning a little bit, so that you can kind of like, okay, this is making sense to me now, and as the narrative kind of plays out, my goal is that people will kind of also tune into that energy as well. Not everybody does, and that's fine. It's not necessary. But some of us maybe are a little bit intuitive on things, that kind of just get that natural intuitiveness. Maybe for some of us, it's like we can kind of get on that energy and really say, okay, this is making sense to me. I can see where this is going, and then you can look at your own life and say, okay, yeah, this makes sense because of blah blah blah. This, and this. So, but anyways, I love you. Much love and many blessings. I love you all. I hope everyone's having a really good New Year so far. It's 13th Jan. Happy Friday the 13th. Maybe we'll. What sounds like a good idea to me is we'll chant another round of japa. Yay! Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. We'll chant some Maha Mantra. And why not? All right, you guys. Much love and many blessings. I will see you guys on the next episode of Indirect Knowledge. Let me know if you need anything. If you want to donate, the links are in the description below this video. If you want to get the tarot course that we put together for you last year. Wow, it's already been a whole year. Feel welcome to grab that as well. Pretty good class. Try to keep adding to it here and there as we get more and more things to add to it. And so thanks everyone for all of your support, your love, your blessings, and good energy out there. Let's make it a great year.